Welcome back to the Blister and Muck podcast. I'm Jenny Mason, your host and the author of the Blister and Muck series. This week, Blister and Muck are off to rescue a bear from forced captivity. Now, with a whole week between each episode, I think it's important we pause and get our bearings. Having said that, I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but the bear's keeper is a truly unpleasant fellow, a serious whipcracker. Dare I call him a barbarian? My producers are signaling me to stop these embarrassing puns and get on with the show. They're absolutely right. This episode has a lot of trouble brewing from start to finish. And as always, it's high-quality storytelling. So high, in fact, that we're getting fan mail over at blisterandmuck.com. Bear with me a moment. I'd like to briefly share what folks around the country are saying. Jerry from Texas says, "I'm impressed with the imagery. A rat having a pet spider is cute, unless you are arachnophobic. I shared the show with my daughter and sister." Out in Colorado, Holly and Barry write to say, "We have tried to listen to several different podcasts over the last year with zero success. Yours was the first we listened to and thoroughly enjoyed." Also from Colorado, Linda says, "Bravo! Lunch with Blister and Muck was delightful. I'll be passing this on to many." We also heard similar praise from Heather in Pennsylvania, Shelley in New York, Jen in Vermont, and Melissa in Arizona. Thank you all so much. This show is 100% listener supported, and you absolutely support it when you share it with others. If 5 of you listening right now invited 5 of your friends to listen, and they each invited 5 of their friends, and if that pattern repeated long enough, well then, my friends, I'm pretty sure this podcast would eventually break some kind of sound barrier. Episode 6, Calliope, Calamity. Blister and Muck traveled to the market district on a wagon pyramided with wooden barrels. Muck wowed at the colorful splendors on display. Fruits and vegetables mounded over street-side racks. Jewelry glimmered behind storefront windows. Haberdasheries displayed the newest hats. Clothiers arrayed ready-made dresses and suits, the latest advance in fashion. Toy stores, candy stores, dime stores, and bookstores, all treasure chests, open and glittering. Other stores seemed to sell only their names, which appeared in gilded letters on thick awnings. J.P. Farnsworth and Sons, or Maxwell's, or Collins, Teague, Rockwood, and Brown. Blister led the way to the Bistered Downs burrow, where wrought iron spears collared an enormous park. Under a taffy pole of late afternoon clouds, the rats dashed through the curling iron archway marking the west entrance to Oddvine Park. Gravel pathways cut geometric patterns through the lawns, forming triangles, rectangles, hexagons, and semicircles. Blooming flower beds buttoned the grassy patches in place. Long lines of tall poplars, stately ash, and stiff birch trees led to sparkling fountains or small ponds topped with lily pads and ducks. Because rats were not a welcome sight in a park, Blister and Muck had to conceal themselves in the flower beds. They passed under umbrellas of sun-gloaming petals, casting orange, violet, and pink shadows. Muck was so bedazzled, he plowed into Blister, who had stopped at the end of the flower bed. They tumbled onto the gravel path. A lady pushing a baby stroller swerved reflexively to avoid pancaking them, but then screamed when she realized what they were. "Rats! Ah!" She about-faced and ran. Blister grabbed Muck and hauled him into the neighboring flower bed. "Are you determined to get us exterminated?" Blister grumbled. Muck toed the dirt and hugged one elbow. "Dreadfully sorry. I was distracted by the floral filigree, the colorful canopy."
"Flowers. Pretty. Check. We're on a tight schedule, a packed program. Would you mind keeping up and paying attention?"
"Righto." Blister directed them deep into the heart of the park. The further they traveled, the more the park changed. The loamy soil turned moldy. Trimmed lawns gave way to wild, wavering weeds and nettles. With long vines draped on their crooked branches, the slouching trees resembled trolls roped to the ground. Brown shadows chased away sunlight. Ghoul-eyed owls and merlins arrowed through the gloom and pounced on prey. To let Muck catch his breath, Blister paused under a saggy, broken bench beside a fountain relic. Its water basin held a black, burping sludge. Muck shivered as he pointed at a cluster of weathered stone statues, mostly swallowed in a tangled thicket. "What are those?"
"Tombstones," Blister said. "Looks like one of the graves has been robbed."
Blister indicated the mound of dirt with the top of an open coffin poking out. "Robbed?" Muck stammered. "Robbed of what?" Before Blister could respond, a man pushing a Calliope clanked and rattled and ruckused out of a mossy copse. He walked with a limp. Thump skirk, thump skirk. According to the banners hanging off the steam organ, the man was Vexler Q. Drummal, and this was his circus. His thick beard was a thorny rosebush. He wore a crinkled top hat, a dingy waistcoat over a grimy, once white shirt, tattered galligaskins, and long boots that might have once been leather, but now were chiefly made of mud. Like Vexler, the Calliope might have once played a grand part in a glittering circus. Now it wore chipped paint, fuzzy splinters, and a crown of tarnished pipes. Last to emerge from the overgrowth was a black bear in a sequin tutu. It skulked behind Vexler, tethered on a long chain. Muck gasped. "A bear!"
"A bear," Blister nodded. "That's our rescue mission."
"The bear?"
"The bear."
Muck coiled his tail around his quivering paws. "We can't rescue a bear." The Calliope's wheels struck a deep divot, knocking a couple of pipes to the ground. Vexler did not bother to pick them up, but the bear stopped to sniff them. Vexler flick-cracked a whip and grunted. "Move it." The bear whined and scuttled after Vexler. The so-called circus traveled to a sunnier portion of the park. Vexler Q. Drummal then crisscrossed the chain through the wheels of the Calliope cart and secured the knot with a padlock. He hung the key from a finger of splinters. Next, he dug a handful of coins from his own pocket. These he tossed into his top hat, which was set on the gravel walkway, mouth open, eager for more coins. Vexler then turned a crank on the side of the Calliope, and music tooted out of the pipes in puffs of white steam. Toopa boopa, toopa boopa, toodaloo toodaloo, toodle-woodle doodle-dee. The tangy, out-of-tune notes did not prevent a crowd from forming. With several cracks of the whip, Vexler invited the bear to stand up and do a sort of dance. The bear bounced on one paw, then the other. It hopped in a circle, trying to twirl. When Vexler wasn't flicking the whip to make the bear shimmy faster, he jangled the top hat at the crowds, encouraging them to toss in coins. Muck dropped his tail and clenched his fists. "We have to rescue that bear!" Blister patted Muck on the back.
"I have an idea. Grab those pipes and follow me."
Muck retrieved the fallen Calliope pipes as ordered. Blister dove into the open coffin. After a moment, he stuck his head out and waved impatiently at Muck.
"Come on, Muck. There's just a pile of clothes in here."
"Where's the cadaver?" Muck quivered.
"Stolen. Now hurry up with those pipes."
The automated song on the Calliope tooted its final note. The crowd applauded, and Vexler bowed athletically. Then he jangled the top hat, collecting more money. When newcomers flocked from across the park, he prepared to wind the Calliope for the next dance. Because Vexler's back faced the graveyard, he did not see what happened. He only heard a child scream,
"Ghost!"
Then he heard the mournful moan. "Hoo, weep." Everyone screamed and bolted away. The commotion startled the bear, who hunkered between the big wagon wheels of the Calliope, leaving a pink flare of tutu ruffles poking out. "Hoo, weep." Vexler's knees shook. Cold sweat beaded his head. He had worked in different circuses from around the world ever since he was a boy. He knew scores of jugglers, clowns, and acrobats. But he also knew scores more fortune-tellers, magicians, and seanciers. He knew from all these people that the world was full of inexplicable things. That 2 hands was all it took to make 12 knives and 7 flaming torches fly in a circle. That laughter sometimes sprang from a weeping flower. That bones could bend like rubber. That the future was easier to read than a book. And that sometimes ghosts emerged from graveyards. He turned to confront the dingy poltergeist rising out of the busted coffin. "Hoo," the ghost mourned. "Ghost!" Vexler cried out and hobbled away faster than a stone skipping across a lake. Thump, 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 skirk, skirk, skirk. He would never know the ghost was actually a long blouse propped up on 2 organ pipes that Blister and Muck shook high overhead. Blister blew a triumphant toot through his pipe. "Hoo whoop!" "Heap heap!" Muck answered on his higher-pitched pipe. They threw down their disguise and hurried to the bear. Blister was about to jump for the keys when a mighty black paw with a ridge of sharp claws swiped at him. He scrambled backwards on his hind quarters. "Grrr," the bear growled. It paced before the Calliope, tutu sequins glinting like warning lights.
"Perfect," Blister groaned. "He's trained the bear to guard the Calliope. It won't let us near those keys."
"What if we simply explained our endeavor, outlined our objective?"
"Be my guest."
Muck inched near the bear. "Now, see here, my furry friend. We have come to rescue you from your present peril, your ongoing obstacle, your current calamity." Muck somersaulted backwards, narrowly avoiding the swinging claws. "Grrr," the bear growled again. "Blister, I do believe we are defeated." Blister chuckled.
"You mean distressingly defamed?"
Muck glared.
"One of us needs to distract her while the other of us grabs those keys."
Blister thought a moment, then said,
"I have an idea. Put your foot in my paws."
He clasped his paws and formed a little basket. "My foot? What for?"
I need to calibrate the measurements commensurate with the rate of travel divided by the sum of the increments comprising the distance to the train station relative to the square foot of the weight and circumference of the bear.
Blister may not have liked words the size of Clydesdales, and he might not have known what most of them meant, but that would not stop him from trotting them out during times of need. "My good rat, I did not know you were a master mathematician."
"Yeah, I'm a real crackerjack calculator. Foot, please."
When Muck set his foot in the saddle of Blister's paws, Blister heaved the rat up, up, up. Flung into a spectacular backflip, Muck screeched and squeaked in terror, expecting at any moment to crash. To his delightful surprise, he landed on a soft, cushy bed. A soft, cushy, smelly bed. A soft, cushy, smelly, growling bed of bear. "Blister, help!" Muck croaked from the bear's back. The bear roared and shook its whole body like a dog after a bath. It shimmied, slung, flailed, and flung. It used all the dance moves it knew, but could not dislodge the shrieking rat. In fact, Muck clung to the mangy fur with so much might, the bear gradually sensed something like a hug. Trap, manacle, cage, cuff, whip. These were concepts more readily accessible in the bear's understanding of the world. They were not words she was able to speak, for she had never been taught to communicate verbally. They were forms of contact she knew and had known since she was a cub. Hug, embrace, affection. These were older concepts buried deep in the basement of her heart, under layers of dusty cobwebs. But they were there, having formed back when her mother bear cradled her. When Muck's firm grasp connected to that memory, the concept of hug lit up and shone brighter than one of Edison's new light bulbs. And with that light glowing, her growls turned to a sort of purr. With a confident stretch and twist, the bear plucked Muck from her back. She curled up in a ball and cradled him in her paws. For a moment, all Blister could see was Muck's flickering toffee-colored tail. Then the bear licked the rat as a mother cat cleans a kitten. "Blister! Puh, puh, puh." Muck spurted between slobbery slathers. "Blister, help! I'm being mauled! Puh, puh, puh."
"I think you're being groomed," Blister said.
"Why?"
"Beats me. That animal barely knows you."
Blister doubled over with a laugh.
"Get it?"
Muck glared under furrowed eyebrows. "This is no time for flippant frivolity." Just then, a nearby clock tower chimed 4 times.
"You're right," Blister said as he hefted the keys from the Calliope. "We've got a train to catch."
Good grief! Can Blister and Muck successfully train a trained bear? We are already 1/3 of the way through Season 1, and events are rolling full steam ahead. Tune in again next week. You never have to track down the latest episode when you subscribe at blisterandmuck.com. Just click on the red subscribe button, enter your email, and you'll get the digital heads up as soon as the newest installment airs. Everyone can support the show by sharing it with friends on social media, or take a moment to give the show a starred review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, Deezer, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're in a position to give financially, just click Support the Show at blisterandmuck.com. Special thanks to composer Roland Rudzaitis for serving up the Blister and Muck theme song. Additional music from Mon Plaisir. Pond 5 recorded the carriage and Calliope. Daniel Simon provided the bell. Mike Koenig brought the owl, and Mark Mattingly loaned the Merlin. I am forever grateful for my family, friends and fans. One for one, and all for you.